nothing.
Hello everybody and welcome back to EU Masters. My name is Munchables and for the first time in a year and a half or something, I'm joined by Orcs. It's the UK lads back in town. How are you doing, mate?
I'm great, and it's been so long that all your hair has fallen out, so not sure how that happened, buddy.
Yeah. I've got a little bit.
Yeah, I'm good.
Back. It is slowly but surely.
Are you planning to grow it back? Are you going to reshave it? Are you going to go with the bald thing? I think you're kind of working it, so...
I don't know. I'm just playing it by ear, mate. Playing it by ear, playing it by scalp. You know how it is. But let's quickly talk about EU Masters and what's been going on today, because we've already had a few games and we've already had a couple of upsets, and we nearly just had an upset there. Let's take a look at the scores so far today and where that puts us in the grand scheme of EU Masters, because Orcs. We're both from the UK. There's a Union Jack there on my screen, and it's looking awfully sad right now.
Yeah, it's not a good start, and unfortunately it's our only UK team, so not really much we can do about that one. Obviously it's a tough group D. Everyone's been saying that coming in, a stacked lineup, and ultimately typically we do, so the UK fail to deliver. So what can we say about that? I think the Mouse Sports and Matchco game we just had, though, I didn't expect it to be that close. I thought Mouse Sports were coming in as one of the top favorites, and they did win it, but I don't think the scoreline really tells the full story of how messy that game was.
Yeah, and look, a dub is a dub. At the end of the day, Mouse Sports walk away with the 1-0.
I wish we had a win.
You can just forget the context doesn't matter. What are you talking about? The 1-0, that's all that counts. So Mouse Sports walk away with that one with their heads held high. Definitely some interesting games today and some surprising results, and we'll see if that continues across the course of today as our theme. But as we move into our fourth game, there's a very important thing that I want to bring up, because we have the Ultraliga stepping onto the stage now, our Polish teams. And importantly, the Ultraliga are, as a region, the returning champions. But I want to talk stylistically about what to expect from this region, because when we look at Illuminar, the team coming from PLAYINS that we're going to be seeing today in our fourth game, when you look at some of these stats, this is a pretty slow team. This is the kind of team that when it comes to early dragons, they're going to be quite happy to forego some of those, but it's when you get to first barons, those kind of things, that's when they're going to be the top. When you look at the PLAYINS stats, they were 15th place for average game time, 15th place for first dragon percent, but that first baron percent, they were the highest in the whole PLAYINS. So it's all about those later game team fights that this is a squad that'll focus on.
And I think a big thing for Illuminar is they're very risk averse. There's a lot of situations where they'll sort of test the waters. Do we want to go for this fight? If one person dies, if the position isn't good, they'll just back off. A lot of other teams I've seen, they'll commit to the full fight. Even if things are starting to look rough, they'll go hard. We're the winner, we don't. I don't think Illuminar are that sort of team. They will take a step back and they'll look to sort of lean into those later game team fights, which they are really excellent at.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see some big 5v5s. I'm hoping when we get to the draft, we get to see some kind of these kind of compositions with things like the Scion and whatnot, that you get to see the big front to back team fights, which I feel like Scion has very much fallen out of favor more recently in the global meta. It was very popular a little while ago. Now we're on 11.7 as well. You can expect that the meta will shift a little bit across the course of EU Masters. But Dan, we're into Champ Select. It's going to be Camille banned away as well as the Seraphine starts off.
Yeah, Seraphine, very common red side ban. That champion is just broken. But the Camille is specifically a Dreedy, who's had this ban against him consistently in Spain, in the Superliga. And I think particularly with UCAM on red side, that's potentially a concern, because if they manage to get a good counter pick in the top lane, that can cause problems. You want a team fight, they want a split push. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, those first two bans are literally just ticking boxes, because against UCAM, the Camille has been banned against UCAM 70% of their games this split, and the Seraphine has been banned against Illuminar 61% of the games this split. So that's literally just ticking boxes. The Nocturne taken off the board, which has become one of those really prevalent blind picks that you can go for. You can take it top, you can take it jungle, you can take it mid, you can take it wherever you want, and the Scion that I talked about as well going to be taken off the board.
Yeah, I think a solid move to deny that one away just from the top lane of Illuminar. Question for me is really on the AD carry priority, because I feel like Kai'Sa is just massive for both of these teams. UCAM will lean heavily into Trist as an alternative, but the question is, do you want to sort of leave that up for them as a first pick? Are you worried about things like the Thresh, things like the Rel? For now, seeing the Hecarim banned away from Hades. This is pretty much one of his big go-tos, but he has a pretty varied pool, so I'm not really too concerned for him here.
Yeah, a little bit surprised to see Hecarim being banned on the blue side here. Usually you'd expect Hecarim to be kind of just foregone on the blue side bans so that you can potentially first pick it, but the Tristana is going to be the answer here. So things like the Rel available, things like the Udyr as well if you want to prioritize a jungler. A lot of things open right now, but it's going to be the Jinx as the first lock-in. That Thresh is up as well, so maybe UCAM have to think about taking the Thresh-Jinx combo away.
Yeah, I think Thresh Jinx is probably like the best bot lane on the current patch. If you can get this Jinx rolling, if you've got a strong AD carry who's consistent in the team fights, Thresh makes it so much safer. And in the late game, you just absolutely demolish. So I think you can probably want to lean into a composition that's going to be able to challenge that backline. Typically, things like the Kai'Sa work well there. And then denying the Thresh is really important. They are going to take the Kai'Sa. I think this rotation, just taking the Thresh would probably be a smart idea because it just makes your job so much more difficult if you are trying to get on that backline. Alternatively, they could just look to pick up, a jungler in this situation and get priority on that.
Yeah, you could go for a jungler. You're basically saying we're okay with the Jinx Thresh combo if you do go for something else, but one thing I will say, Thresh and Kai'Sa, not really a combo that's much of a go-to in the bottom lane, so maybe just lean towards, I don't know, like a Nautilus or something that can do well into that Thresh matchup specifically. It is going to be the Udyr locked in, which I think, with Nocturne and Hecarim both taken off the board, Udyr pretty clearly the priority jungler here. Now over to Illuminar, so what are you expecting in this rotation from the Polish team?
I mean, I expect the Thresh to come through. It's a really high priority pick for the team, so I think you got to pick that up. Orianna adds another backline element, protection for the Jinx as well. So I think you just take the Thresh here. You got a really strong backline. You got a lot of safety. And as much as there's been a couple of there's been the Hecarim banned away, there's been the Nocturne ban, there's the Udyr taken. There's still such a wide amount of picks that you can take. There's still the Volley Bear available. I don't think you're too concerned about moving down in terms of priority there.
This would be an interesting lock-in. The Skarner is going to come on through. Now, papatabachi has only played this once this entire split. He technically has a 100% win rate, but over one game, that's not the most impressive statistic. Not something I was super expected to see locked in today, but certainly can work with the Orianna. You get the boost of movement speed to go in there, but opting out of that Thresh pick we were talking about. Over to UCAM now, though, to lock in their first round of the draft.
Yeah, and I think Viktor makes sense. You're trying to contest that priority in the mid lane. I think an important thing if you got the Udyr here and the Skarner is you want extra momentum. You want to be able to challenge, you get a CS lead early, because if you go late against this Illuminar roster, you're going to struggle. We already said that that's typically their play style. Their composition suits it here. So you do need to have that priority. And instantly the ban comes out for Thresh. That's expected. Great with the Jinx. Also really good with the Skarner. So that one needed to be taken away.
Yeah, Rel taking off the
and
board
Rel
as
coming
well,
through.
So supports.
I think potentially an Alistair as well would be a good ban for Illuminar. Just limit those engaged supports that love to pair up with the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, I do think there's a tiny bit of a delay between us, so we might step on our toes a tiny bit during step on each other's toes a tiny bit during this. But it's going to be the Tahm Kench taken off the board as well. Another one of those peel spots. The reason that Thresh is so valuable is you've got that lantern to reposition your hyper carry, AD carry. Tahm Kench is a very similar beast, right? Where Jinx can step up very aggressively, and Tahm Kench can always just gobble her up and save her in those team fights. So reasonable ban coming out here from UCAM. You can expect maybe another support ban. Yep, the Alistair comes out from the side of Illuminar, and now UCAM have to start looking towards their top laner and their support.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one because obviously you love to be able to give Dreedy the counter pick. You know, he's someone who plays picks like Camille, is able to sort of punish those matchups. But I feel like if you give yourself a bad support matchup, you're really going to struggle for UCAM. So I feel like you could probably just take a blind top laner here like the Gnar, which they are hovering, and then you give counter pick in the bot lane to Plasma, and you can secure yourself a good lane. Look to challenge that Jinx early and limit the amount of protection available.
Look, I'm just going to throw it out there. Melonik does play Aurelia. He's played it 3 times this split. Aurelia has a pretty good matchup into the Gnar. You definitely have all in windows, so we could have something spicy in the top lane here from Illuminar. But the Braum that has been showing its head a couple of times today definitely got buffed in the most recent patch. Definitely fulfills that support that wants to protect a hyper carry. So Jinx Braum, very much an old school duo in the bottom side.
And this could be, I mean, again, it's great for team fighting. We set it up. We set Illuminar are really strong in that. They tend to sort of lean back, allow themselves to scale. It's not that they won't do anything. It's just they are risk averse in the early game. I actually do much prefer this, though, if they do lock in that Gangplank. Gives them more tools and more defensive options across the map, because you have to be careful about being too inactive with your composition. If you are just trying to sit back and scale, it gives UCAM a sort of free ride to take over the early game. And now it sort of comes down to what Plasma wants to take here. Rakan, really solid pick, allows that extra engage potential. Braum isn't really good into Rakan because you struggle to lock him down. By the time your passive started stacking, he's already dipped out again. So I think UCAM, a lot of positive tools, but the onus is very much on them to get going in the early game. If they sit back and go to late, they are going to struggle. Things will get more difficult. So I want to see Baca looking to contest priority. I want to see Plasma pairing up with Hadess, and I need to see this Udyr take over the game.
Yeah, and when you look across this composition from Illuminar, you have to say, level 6, big moment in the game for Illuminar. You've got a Gangplank ult that's suddenly global pressure there. Skarner literally becomes a champion at level 6. Orianna Shockwave that pairs really beautifully with those abilities. And then a Jinx Rocket on top of that. That's a wombo combo and a half right there. So Illuminar, once they get that level 6 park, can really come online. But again, just to reiterate what we said before, Illuminar typically have been a fairly slow-paced team. So anticipate that they'll usually be the ones responding to the plays as opposed to setting them up. But as you're setting up yourself here, Orcs, we could see UCAM being a team that are being very proactive, especially with this Rakan pick. You have a lot of windows to make those plays and go for example, early dragons and try and force fights before Illuminar are ready to go for the squads.
And I think you need to. I think you need to start stacking those dragons early, so you're forcing the prospect of Soul, you're forcing the prospect of an Elder Dragon as well, and it means that Illuminar can't just sit back. They can't play the risk of this game style. And the thing is, Illuminar do like to pick up those dragons and heralds in the early game if they can do it for free, but often if a team is going to deal with them, they need to put a stop to that and try and set a timer on the game, set a pace to it.
And we have to take a moment here before the game properly kicks off and just kind of introduce UCAM a little bit, because this is a team coming from a region that historically has been very dominant within the EU Masters. I nearly said within the LPL for a second there. I'm just in pure autopilot mode there. But like the Spanish region has been very successful historically in EU Masters, and UCAM going to be coming in as the first seed as well. So it feels like there's a reasonable amount of pressure on these guys' shoulders. I did just see though Melonik flashing the JDG flare right there. Zoom from JDG, huge, very famous Gangplank player over in China. So that warms my cockles, seeing Melonik flashing the JDG flare right there.
I like how even when we're in EU Masters, you're just going to find your ways to bring the LPL in, bring the influences.
He's flashing the team logo. What?
How do I know you didn't pay Melonik to flash the logo for you? So you had that talking point to go to, you know?
I think you're maybe overestimating how invested I am in talking about JDG in this cast. Let's talk junglers though, Mr. Daniel, as we have Hadess on UCAM starting on this top side with the Udyr. We've got a similar story for papatabachi now. Skarner not really known for the early ganks necessarily, but alongside of Braum can set you up with really good gank opportunities with that passive.
Yeah, I mean, the skirmishing power is pretty good. If someone oversteps, you can lock them down for a significant amount of time. You get the stun from Skarner, the stun from Braum. But realistically, the pace that Hadess should be able to set in the jungle on this Udyr should just bring him ahead off the Skarner. If you can clear faster, if you have priority in your lanes, you can start to make more action on the map. But for now, bot lane kind of struggling, but the big thing is mid. That's what we always talk about when we talk about jungler being activated. We want mid priority, and that's a big factor with this Viktor pick. And I want to see Hadess looking to use that, looking to move around the map, contesting skulls, and trying to get some momentum in this game.
And when we talk about momentum as well, I want to turn that conversation towards the bottom lane, and specifically for UCAM, I want to talk about Rafitta, because this guy, first of all, is on his Kai'Sa. He's played 10 games of Kai'Sa this split, and he is 9 for 10. But when you look at his KDA, his damage percent, his gold difference at 15, the way that UCAM plays often revolves around Rafitta being the big carry, and quite often in the early game, he's the player that they're likely to play through.
Yeah, and I think that in terms of composition, if you're trying to stop that from happening, because Rafitta is the player who will look to carry in the later stages, having a Skarner, having a Braum, these champions make your life so difficult as an AD carry. If you're trying to dive in as a Kai'Sa, the Unbreakable can obviously block your auto attacks. You're not able to follow up in terms of damage. And the Skarner will be able to lock you down. You do see now a fight of this boss side scuttle. Hades needs to get this to sort of find the momentum on that Udyr.
Yeah, Hades would like to go in. There's a knock-up, and with the Void Seeker, it's going to potentially be a kill. Ignite for first blood already. That is a quick one for UCAM, but the TP's coming on through, and maybe more can happen, but Illuminar kind of have to back away. Perhaps an overcommitment on the TP. Is Dreedy now looking for a little bit more? The boomerangs are coming out. Melonik, though, I think can just sprint away from this one. And all of that just for a Scuttle Crab. It will be Hades that gets it.
Yeah, but massive win there for UCAM. Even though it seems small, just getting a Skull Crab, they get that kill as well. They shut down Illuminar's attempt, sort of get them away from that boss side jungle. And I think here it's just really good target selection coming in from UCAM. They see the Braum overstepping and they blow him up before he really gets to do much. The Unbreakable comes in, but it's so late. And then they respect the fact that Illuminar still have a lot of threat. They start to back away. TP starts to come in. I think at this point, Illuminar realized we're a member down. We can't continue this. It's not worth it with the TP coming through, and eventually give up. It's a 1,000 gold lead. Not hugely significant, but this early in the game, it's definitely what UCAM need to get this game going.
Yeah, nice little start here coming out from UCAM. Having a 1,000 gold lead, honestly, almost 5 minutes into the game, that's a great way to kick it all off, especially with Drake coming up in 15 seconds. You can see the junglers back up towards the top side, starting their clears down towards that bottom side of the map, so we could have another scuffle. One thing I will say is with both top laners not having teleports, Melonik, once he gets to level 6, has a minor advantage there. I don't know whether he's going to get 6 or if the TPs are going to come back up first, but I'd imagine he'll get that ultimate. So when it comes to Dragon fights, if it is a 4v4, Melonik can influence that and kind of make it a 4.5v4.
Yeah, so I think if UCAM want to take the Dragon, this is kind of the window you can do it before he hits 6. If he does hit that point, you may just want to wait either until Dreedy has priority and can walk down, or until you do have that TP. Something to note that when we were in the replay, Hades actually moved up towards the top side and was able to pick up that top side scuttle, so it was a double scuttle situation. We can see that he does have a lead over the Skarner, and when you are playing the Udyr, you want to be building up a significant farm lead. I've seen scenarios where you can get 3 levels ahead at a certain point in the game. That's the kind of pace we need to be setting. Because again, a lot of scaling on the side of Illuminar, and that is where they like to lean into. They like to just sort of chill back, go to the later stages, not take too many risks.
Yeah, both mid laners going to TP back in as well to try and maintain prio, and you can see Baca getting pushed under just a little bit. Plasma hiding in the wings, as we do have Hades on the Udyr. Udyr obviously very good at just stacking these drakes. More than happy to just solo that out while the team has priority. The Shrine's going to be on their side, so Hades says, look, I'm just going to kick this one off. Papatabachi knows that he can't really contest, and obviously with this massive bot prio that we've got for UCAM as well, it's more easily said than done.
Yeah, I mean, they stacked up such a huge wave. No way Odie's ever going to move away from that one. Even if the team's screaming for you to go to Dragon, you're like, nah, that wave is way too big to give up. And it's a good start. It's a positive start. Doesn't say too much for the state of the game. I still think, you know, it's not too heavily in favor of UCAM, but this is what we needed. This is what we were sort of setting up as the expectations. And a good start from Hades. I think really he's been an instigator in a lot of plays for the team, specifically when it came, you know, domestically for UCAM. And it's continuing here.
Yeah. And let's kind of revisit Illuminar here, because obviously losing out that first fight, they've now lost the first Drake, they got double scuttled. That all sounds really, really terrible on paper, but let's just remember what we said right at the start. This is the normal game plan for Illuminar. They're perfectly okay with conceding a lot in the early game to come back stronger when it comes to the team fighting, when it comes to playing around the neutral objectives like the Baron, and when it comes to, you know, sort of the third Drake, that's typically where we'll see them start to come online. Papatabachi going to be giving over his blue buff, very generous, but one of the nice things about Skarner, when you're on those shrines, you basically have unlimited mana, let's be realistic here.
Yeah, I mean, why not play it mid? If you're going to get infinite mana, definitely would be nice.
Because there are no spines.
True, true. You know, this is why we have you here, Munch. This is why we have the big brain knowledge coming out from you. I think the big thing to look for here is level 6 being hit by the Gangplank. Skarner's going to be close to that point as well. That's kind of when we can maybe see some players coming out from Illuminar. Something happening, especially with Herald spawning up. That should be the priority. And I think if you are going to find a way back in this game sooner, that may be it. But right now, Hades is 2 levels up in the jungle matchup. There's 22 CS difference. Just the power gap there is a bit of an unlucky one.
Yeah, Hades is just sprinting it around the jungle, just gobbling everything up. There's a bit of a CS advantage in favor of Dreedy as well. Typically, from what I've heard, this is a fairly Gangplank favored matchup, and he's just shoved the wave in there. But I don't really know top lane matchups that well, look. So I don't know if you can enlighten me a little bit on how that top lane matchup is meant to work.
It's typically like a decent soft counter because Gnar, he does well into a lot of melee champions because when he's in mini, he's hard to get on. When he's in mega, he kind of just wins against everyone. But with Gangplank, you can kind of actually trade pretty well into him when he's in mini, thanks to your parlay. And then when he hits mega, you can use your barrels and your W just to kind of maintain distance and not get caught up. It does potentially get problematic later on as the Gnar can just sort of run you down if you're not strong enough. But it's kind of picked into it because it just handles the matchup well.
And I feel like when we look at stylistically what we're expecting from Illuminar as well, one of the really interesting things is, you know, they've picked the Gangplank, which is, he abides by the Pirates code. When you look at some of the team fights coming out from Illuminar, if it starts to go badly at the start, they very much abide by the Pirates code. It's every man for himself. Anyone who falls behind is left behind. When things start to go bad for Illuminar, they will cut and run their losses, which is something that certainly in the lower leagues, you quite often wish you would see from certain teams. So that's certainly intelligent from Illuminar. But again, because they play that slow style, because they quite often will concede a lot in the early game, papatabachi almost lost that grab there. That was a little close. It does mean UCAM are completely in control right now. So again, that gold lead very much in favor of UCAM. Now they've got the Herald. I'm curious where Hades is going to go with that one, where he'll slam it down.
I think you have options. I think mid is typically a good one to sort of break up in the game, but you're unlikely to get the tower completely taken down and get those extra plates. So I think it kind of depends where you can build up pressure. You could potentially use it with this dragon spawning, throw it down mid, force the enemy team to respond. And I think that might be a good call because securing that second dragon, as you said before, third dragon tends to be the one you want to contest to try and keep them away from being so close to the dragon soul. And I think it would put a lot of pressure towards Illuminar.
Look at Hades right now. He's taking yet more camps from papatabachi. The amount he's been in papatabachi's jungle so far, he's going to have to start paying rent soon. This is getting unacceptable now. He's going to be able to recall, doesn't want to... I mean, Dreedy has priority in the top side, right? But you really don't want to give that gold over to the Gnar if you can help it. You'd love to slam it mid, slam it bot, get some gold onto your carries. But ultimately, things looking pretty good for UCAM. Big CS lead up at the top side. Massive difference in the jungle. As you say, the XP difference is there as well, as Dreedy has managed to get himself a plate. And all things considered, taking it fairly slow. But one thing is standing out to me here, Dan, and that is that OD not only got a couple of turret plates for himself, he also has a little bit of a CS lead for himself. He's on a Jinx. That is perfect scenario for Illuminar that he's the one getting all the gold right now.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to late game, having an Udyr ahead just doesn't matter, really. It's all about these sort of late game carries, and the Jinx is arguably one of the bigger ones in this game. I think, you know, the pace has been okay initially, but we were talking before about how we're 5 minutes in, there was a 1k gold lead. We're now 12 minutes in nearly, and there's, you know, less than 1,000 gold lead. UCAM haven't really sort of accelerated the game at all since then, and they need to keep putting the pressure down. They're going to pick up the second dragon easily, great, but there needs to be a bit more. If you kind of just let Illuminar scale this one out, it's going to start to feel rough, really rough later. And particularly Czajek in the mid lane on this Orianna can be an absolute monster, farming up 10 CS per minute, looking really solid in this game.
And I think one of the things about that potential late game scenario as well is that with that Gangplank, you have a lot of potential to threaten in the side lane as well. It's not just about front to back team fights. Flashes come out on the top side of the map. Dreedy. Oh, there's nothing you can do about this one. The Stinger has come in. One more Q. In fact, you know what? A Burning Sword will finish the job instead. Melonik gets the kill, and it's answered in the mid lane by Hades with the Herald. That's 2 plates going the way of Baca.
And it's kind of like the expected standard. You use a Herald, you get 2 plates. It's not great though. Like, yeah, it's what teams will typically do. They'll put some pressure down mid. They can get a tower, which opens up the map. But I would really hope that UCAM could have got a bit more, especially when Illuminar are starting to make plays.
Oh, those flame choppers are huge. He's tanking the tower as well. The ignite is more than enough for Melonik. Gets the kill. Rafitta is in trouble as well. And there's actually a TP coming up through. They delay the kill so the assist can go through as well. That was beautiful.
This is looking pretty rough already. We'll get a replay. And this is just disrespect. We've seen Plasma constantly dipping in throughout this game. And this was definitely a situation he needed to dip out, got caught on the chompers, and then actually autos and takes tower aggro there. Maybe could have survived at least for a bit longer if he hadn't done that, but goes down, and at that point, Rafitta's just doomed. As you said, put the shield in to get the assist for the Orianna, make it with Czajek's time
hang
down,
on.
but play coming in.
UCAM are going to answer on the top side, though. I'm going to see Czajek moving away. Melonik's there as well. The Chaos Storm not really doing enough, and that's a cheeky little shockwave. Don't do any damage. We're too early in the game for that, but it looked nice.
Just got to send the message. I can hit one. I can hit two people with it. But ultimately, the aggression punished a bit there from UCAM, but overall, they're just able to walk it out. But they're now down in gold. That tower taken by Odie, and this Jinx significantly far ahead. You know, considering how much we're talking about this game plan was going okay, it's really quickly started to fall out of control.
Yeah, and I mean, when we looked at how the early game went, the double skull going the way of Hadess, we saw the 2 early dragons going the way of UCAM as well. And even getting that Herald, but it doesn't feel like they've been able to transition those early advantages into anything. And when we've already got Odie with a Kraken Slayer and boots and a crit cape on top of that, we've already got that Essence Reaver coming through for Melonik as well, who's got 2 kills. He got a bunch of gold for himself in this early game. It feels like when we're talking about Illuminar being this late game team in quotation marks, that late game's been accelerated a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, as much as they won't take risks, as much as some other teams somewhat risk averse, if you give them some free plays on a plate, they'll take it. Melonik could be in trouble here, though.
Hang on. Yeah, I don't know if he could 2v1 this one. His barrels just getting last hit. That was nice from Rafitta. Just to be able to get those barrels down before the damage could come on through. Gets himself a shutdown, importantly, as well. So the AD carry gold gap is going to be way less significant now.
Yeah, allows Rafitta hopefully to finish that first item in base. But the problem is, you're making this play on the other side of the map, while Illuminar are able to make that play on the top side. And if you're just trading evenly when you're a team who need to find the momentum early, it's not really a good spot to be in. You want to kind of be accelerating beyond that. And it's just going to end up being tower for tower. Obviously, you can get the advantage of that kill, but it's still looking a little bit dire. Dragon spawn in a minute 15. I could see Illuminar being in a comfortable spot to fight this, in all honesty. They've got the Skarner ult available, they've got the GP ult available. They're going to have Herald, which can potentially throw that mid to cause some pressure. I think they can make this happen.
And look, they're just moving Odie around the map right here. They're like, all right, where can we get Odie some gold? Bot lane? Yeah, cool. Odie, take the tower. Top lane? Okay, yeah, cool. Odie, go take the tower. Guess what? Odie, have yourself a little Rift Herald here. Go take that to the mid lane. In a minute's time, as you say, drop that Herald in the mid lane. And suddenly, Odie can look to pressure the tower. Then he can move over to the Drake. And it feels like when you're looking across the scoreboard as well, all of these mythics already coming on through. Baca has already paid the Skarner tax. He has a Quicksilver Sash in his inventory, which is great and everything, but the problem is you don't have any damage when you haven't spent 1,300 gold early game just to not die to Skarner.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I don't even think necessarily the Viktor's the best option. You want to be ideally ulting Rafitta if he tries to dive in, or at least keeping it as threat. So all that QSS does, it just means papatabachi won't target you, but he still has other options to go for. Until that Skarner tax is paid across the board, it's kind of looking rough. They are going to throw down that Herald mid. UCAM are going to have to respond to this. It does mean that Illuminar should be able to push in and get control of that Dragon area. We'll just clear the wave out and escort that one. As you can see, UCAM kind of have to pull back out the river. I'd like to see Illuminar now move through and start to sweep out some of that vision and look to get control of that Dragon. If you secure this third one, it doesn't matter nearly as much that the first two went at UCAM.
Yeah, and it's a Mountain Drake as well. Skarner, when he starts stacking Mountain Drakes, is real hard to deal with. The Spy going to be grabbed, but it's actually stuns onto papatabachi here. He doesn't get to play the game. He just gets eradicated. What is the damage out of Melonik? That was absolutely huge from the barrels. I think that was Orianna on top of it as well. But Plasma survives. That's all that matters. It's 1-0 in favor of UCAM. They can start to stack these Drakes. There's no smite here, so Illuminar, if they want to stop the Drake, they've got to fight for it. Melonik is on his own, though, in the backline, and he can't do anything. Illuminar being picked apart in this fight one by one, and UCAM grabbed themselves a third Drake in a row.
that initial split just completely cost Illuminar. And papatabachi, the big thing there was that Dreedy had Mega Gnar. There was no way that they could push in and just get trapped against that wall. If you see the position here, that wall next to Pixel Bush, if you stay there when Dreedy's got Mega, you are just completely doomed. And papatabachi, he's like, I want this Spire. He's focused on that, and he gets left alone in the middle of 4, instantly blown up. And then it's so difficult for Illuminar to approach now. You're 4v5, you don't have a jungler, there's no way you're going to steal this. So they decide to look for the fight, but you can make a great decision here and instantly turn onto the Gangplank, so they don't have to deal with the team at the same time. The gravity field stalls the rest. And yes, Melonik does a ton of damage, but at the end of the day, it's now 5v3, you're not getting that dragon.
Yeah, Melonik knows he's a Gangplank, but you're not at the 1v5 stage just yet. That's a nice little ult, but not good enough right here, and it's actually just going to be the death of the Braum here. Unfortunate plays coming out of Illuminar back-to-back here as papatabachi tries to brute force it, but the team's just not ready.
I'm not sure what the game plan was there. You know, there's still ult available for Rafitta. There was still flash and heal, and the only one to follow up was the Braum, and the Braum's not really going to output enough damage to get the kill quickly. It seemed desperate almost coming out from Illuminar. It feels like they've kind of started to feel the pressure now. They know that 3 minutes 45 until that final dragon that'll lock in Soul for UCAM. And we talked a lot about setting them up as this risk-averse team, but they're kind of floundering. They're going for these messy plays and starting to panic almost.
Yeah, it feels like just overforcing their hand a little bit. And remember, we talked about scaling a little bit. The Jinx gonna scale real well. The Orianna, the Gangplank. You've got 3 carries that will do more and more the longer you give them to get into the game. The problem with that, though, is in 3 minutes time, we're going to get another Drake coming onto the map. UCAM will be in prime position when you got Rafitta with 3 kills. We talked about how Baca's build was slowed down, but he has the Leandries now, so it's not like he won't be able to do damage. With that QSS, he'll be a lot safer in the fights as well. So it does feel like if UCAM can play around Dreedy's Mega Timer well enough, they'll be in a position to grab themselves Soul Point.
Yeah, and it's not like the carries on UCAM scale badly. The Viktor and the Kai'Sa are still going to remain relevant for quite a bit of time. And at this point, you know, the Skarner is level 9. Okay, just hit level 10 as I said that literally. But 2 levels down on Hadess really felt quite weak. We've seen him going into these fights and he's quite squishy. And that fight around Dragon just blown up almost instantly is not really providing enough space for Illuminar's carries to do that much. And they don't have time to wait on in this game. If you end up if you end up giving over Mountain Soul this early in the game, it makes such a big difference. Those extra shields just make it so much harder to cut through your opponents because you're already lacking damage, you're already behind, you're already early in the game than you would like, and it will just mean that UCAM can likely look to threaten Baron on the back of that.
So you're saying there's a little bit of a jungle diff going on, bit of a garden gap, bit of foliage dissonance going on here. Plasma actually having to jump away. He's all right on this one. He is playing Rakan, so, you know.
But foliage dissonance was a bit of a reach.
Look, there is foliage and there is some dissonance going on, that's for sure. Baca even taking camps away. papatabachi is just desperate for one of his camps. He's not seen one of his camps in years at this point. There's Czajek going to have to back away. Does flash underneath the tower. The Chaos Storm's still going to be wailing on him while he's just trying to farm under the tower. And now with flash on cooldown for this next Drake as well. That's a big issue coming through for the side of Illuminar. UCAM, it feels like they're in the driver's seat and it feels like they're poised for Soul.
Yeah, I mean, they had so much vision control in that Baron area, just completely eclipsing Illuminar from accessing it. And now they can start to transfer that down towards the bot side. You can see they have 3 pink wards, 3 control wards up on the top side. If they move them down here, if they close Illuminar out, it's just going to feel almost impossible for them to move in. There is still the cannon barrage, but being that UCAM are on red side, it's not that difficult to leave the pit again against it. papatabachi is going to walk up, but you have to be so scared at this moment because you will just get blown up, especially if Rakan manages to lock you down.
Yeah, that's one of the scary things, that there is a huge amount of pick potential right on the side of UCAM. With, especially whenever you've got a Kai'Sa and a team, if the whole teams aren't there, right? If one person just gets caught out and it's just like supports meet in the river or something like that, Rafitta can always just fly across the map and join in that fray and find the kill. And he's got a collector, so he has a bunch of execute damage, has a bunch of that single target damage if he can get the isolated Q. So can find big opportunities as Plasma. Just going to get the heal over onto Rafitta. Here we go. Drake's up in 10 seconds. Dan, I'm liking the look of UCAM right here. I'm liking the look of how this has been going for them so far, but papatabachi has to be the engaged tool. It does feel like all Illuminar could do to start a fight, though, is just run at UCAM, and UCAM are kind of okay with that.
But now Illuminar in a position where they have posture in the river. It's up to UCAM to move in, but Dreedy is getting so close to that Mega Gnar.
Let's see.
I'm really
50-50 smite. Hadess goes in and gets the soul for himself. It's beautiful to see. But Odie, free firing on the backside right here. Dreedy's gone deep, but he's going to go down as is Plasma. The hook comes in. The pincer even as Baca now chased down. Will flash out to safety. And that gravity field will slow the chase down. Zap goes wide, but Baca surely has to go down. He's on the wrong side of the map, and Odie knows it. He's just going to chase on in, but Baca is going to look to try and get a recall off. And now the 1v1 between the mid laners. Can Baca make it on out? You know, it may be Japanese for idiot, but he ain't no idiot. He gets away with it.
He's got TP as well. He can rejoin in this Baron fight. UCAM did manage to get the Mountain Soul there and should be spawning in time at least to contest it. There's so many low health bars on the side of Illuminar. I don't think they can do this. They have to back away.
All right, and now the TP comes through anyway. I thought that they were going to. I thought they were going to commit to just rushing the Baron on the reset. Yeah. I actually think they could have gone for that.
Maybe. Still risky, though, and we'll get a replay of the fight. So I think the big thing here is that you can just feel a little bit split up in this situation. Hadess gets the TP with the Great Glacial Fissure, and the Cannon Barrage keeps the backline away. So when we see Dreedy dive in, he's kind of alone. Odie kills him, gets a reset, and then the beautiful Skarner ult from papatabachi just takes out the Kai'Sa. And at this point, the fight's just over. I honestly got to praise the Cannon Barrage and the Glacial Fissure with such good zoning tools there that just really stopped UCAM from following up on the Gnar.
We'll have to keep our eyes on papatabachi going into the next fight, because he was just waiting in the pit, and obviously doesn't win out the smite fight. He's not been doing so hot when we're just pairing the junglers in a head-to-head, right? But flashing over the wall just when Rafitta thinks he's safe to step on up, gets ulted in. But look at the inventories. Look at the tax that has been paid by UCAM. They are very afraid of the IRS. You've got Dreedy with a QSS. You've got in mid and bot more QSSs. And then on top of that, Plasma on his Rakan has the QSS as well. The only one who's not afraid to feel the sting of papatabachi is Hadess. And let's be honest, he's got a Demon's Plate. He's got a Turbo Chem Tank. And then Merc Treads. He'll be all right.
And the thing is as much as you are paying this tax and you are having to spend that money on the QSS, which obviously you'd love to spend on other items, it does kind of render papatabachi a little bit useless. At this point, he's not going to be able to make that same play in the next fight because Rafitta will just QSS and walk away. So it does make things a little bit trickier for the Skarner to have impact in those team fights, but obviously 3 items now on the Jinx is a comparison. Odie able to clean up on that team fight, and we're sort of getting to the point where the Jinx is getting really scary in this game. You've got the defensive ability of the Braum to keep you alive. You have the Orianna who can help support you. And it's not like you're the only threat. That's a big thing. Having the Orianna and the Gangplank as well means it's difficult for UCAM, because even if they take down one of these carries, there's still 2 strong scaling carries that are up and available.
Yeah, we've got to keep our eyes on Odie in these fights, because you can see even just clearing the mid wave, Czajek moves in, shields Odie, does a bit of DPS to the wave, but he makes sure he's letting Odie get all of those last hits. This is just put your eggs in the Odie basket right now, and Melonik is also starting to get big. Just picked up a BF sword. He's getting close to that Infinity Edge, but we have to talk about Baron here for a second, Orcs, because we talked about it from play-ins. 80% of the time, it was Illuminar getting the first Baron of the game, but it feels like they've been pushed out. They don't have control of this game. It's going to be difficult for them to maintain that stat. But UCAM, they're in the position to be able to potentially look for that, as Rafitta could get collapsed on here. There's a knock-up from Czypsy, and papatabachi looks for the ult himself, but can't get the impale. Dreedy now in trouble. He's going to have to QSS back out of the play. The charm across the team. Czypsy the first one to go down, but Baca's found out by Czajek on the other side of the fight. Plasma running away. Odie still going strong. Dreedy can't finish the kills, and Odie cleans them all up. Plasma and Rafitta wondering what went wrong.
That stun at the end on a Dreedy was so clutch. I saw him go mega. I was like, this is the time they could turn it around, and they get stunned, and he gets absolutely annihilated. Odie doing so much damage in this one. It just felt like UCAM couldn't find the headway. We see the star actually coming out on Rafitta, and it's a little bit messy. Czypsy doesn't really connect on that one. papatabachi tries to get the stun initially, force a QSS to ult, but Rafitta manages to disengage. So like, okay, let's go for Dreedy. Instant QSS. renders it useless, but we see Baca actually dying on the side of Czajek, and then I thought Dreedy at this point, I'm like, this is go time, but the stun comes in, and it's so sad to see for the Gnar. That was the moment, that was the carry moment, that's where you're going to find your way back in the game, and he instantly just gets deleted.
And that was just like literally stand behind Braum. The passive coming on, the concussive blows stuns Dreedy at the worst possible moment in the fight. And now, Orcs, we're getting to the time at which UCAM can maybe regret the fact that they stacked 4 Drakes so early on into the game. Because yes, you've got a Mountain Soul, but what has it really achieved if you're going to lose these fights? papatabachi forces a flash at a Rafitta here. And I think Plasma has to back away from this one as well. They can get control of this bottom side river. They get a tower, and the Elder Drake's up in 30. Rafitta pushed underneath the tower, forcing a TP, but Dreedy's behind them.
Dreedy?
Gnar into the wall. Odie's in trouble. Flashes out to the backside, but he goes down. Triple shockwave. And Melonik has to be the one to carry this fight. If you want Illuminar to win it, that is. But Hadess chasing him down, looking for more. Baca's here with the damage to try and finish the kill. Onto the captain of the ship. There's another kill, and UCAM take the fight.
Huge flank coming in from Dreedy, gets a great Gnar into the wall, takes Odie out, and as soon as the Jinx falls, everyone else is starting to scramble, trying to find some momentum. Czajek does manage to get out on this one, but the rest of the team is forfeit. And now you talked about the Elder Dragon. You kind of seem happy that they stacked up those 4 Drakes early. It's just beautiful time with the Mega Gnar here. Flash straight into the wall. Czajek actually stopwatched there, initially thinking the engage was going to be on him. And it just means you're not able to offer that peel. The shockwave was too late. Your AD carry is already down. And yes, we have those 2 other carries available on the team. They're just running away.
And how wrong were we, Orcs, when we were like, you know, Dreedy, that was his moment to shine. That was the moment where he wins the game. And then it's like 2 minutes later, Dreedy flashes over the wall, gets the biggest Gnar ult you've ever seen, and wins the fight for his team. And we talked about AD carries as well. Look at Rafitta's items. Look at that scoreline. 8, 2, and 1. He is popping off on the Kai'Sa. He is 9 out of 10 games on the Kai'Sa this split. Now with an Elder Drake, there's no way Illuminar can contest this. UCAM are poised with Elder. They can get Baron, and they're poised to close the game out.
And we were concerned. We were saying, UCAM, if you don't find that early momentum, there could be problems. They just don't care. Rafitta is going ham on this Kai'Sa. They're finding the team fights. The engages are still possible. It's tricky for sure, but if you find the right angle on the Jinx, they're making it happen. And now, as you said, both those buffs in pocket. They've got, well, not all 3. They've got the Mountain Soul, they've got the Baron, they've got the Elder. There's not much Illuminar could do in this situation. You kind of just have to sacrifice as little of your base as possible, but this mid inhibitor is just going to be gone.
Melonik, you got to get back to the base, but he's recalling in the bottom side of the map, but the whole base is going to be in shambles by the time he returns home. Now up to the top side go UCAM. There's going to be, at minimum, 2 inhibitors, but I'm not going to lie, Orcs. I'm thinking that UCAM are eyeing up the game right here. Still 50 seconds on that Elder buff. It's 50 seconds that Illuminar have to wait before they can realistically contest in any way. They've just got to try and clear these minions up. Hadess jumping forwards. Doesn't find a way in just yet. Keep your eyes on papatabachi. If he can find a big pick, if he can use that impale, maybe there's a way for Illuminar to win a fight. But for now, they've cleared the minions, and that'll buy time.
Problem is, everyone has QSS apart from that Udyr. There's no real good options in this situation. The wave clear is solid, but they are starting to crack through. 1 Nexus tower down.
Here we go.
UCAM are still looking.
Yeah, 14 seconds on that Elder buff. Illuminar just watching that buff count down. 10 seconds left until Illuminar can properly fight back. Melonik setting up the barrels. He wants to get some big damage out, but Dreedy does not get in. They go with the Gnar ulti. Czypsy going to be the first target. Goes down immediately. Odie falls as well. It was too little, and it was too late. The Nexus will fall, and UCAM take game number 1.
Huge performance coming out in that game, getting the first win, the EU Masters main event. Honestly, I felt like there were moments as we got into the mid game, it felt like Illuminar was starting to hit their stride. They were playing that sort of style where they want to lean into the later stages, but UCAM just didn't give them the windows. And I got to give credit to Rafitta, who is stellar on that Kai'Sa, and also Dreedy. We saw that moment, but like, that was your big moment. You missed it, and he finds another just after. And as soon as they got that momentum, the game was open. Game was over in a flash.
Yeah, and also Hadess, right? Let's not forget the early game jungle gap that we got to see there. Hadess was just power clear in the jungle. And he was like, runs out of camps, so he just goes and takes the camps out of the other jungle instead. As you say, Rafitta looking amazing as well. Really, really solid performance here from UCAM. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about the fact that we saw a couple of fights back-to-back from Illuminar. We saw them win the fight. Even though the Dragon Soul went the way of UCAM, we saw Illuminar winning that fight, and it was like, okay, maybe this is the moment. The team comp's coming online, but every single time, Dreedy's just like a heat-seeking missile, and his target is Odie, and he just ran him down.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, we were looking at papatabachi as being the one to start fights in favor of Illuminar, but once all those QSS has been picked up, they didn't really have an option. We saw that sort of desperate play coming in the mid game. They couldn't find anything, and it kind of just became UCAM's game where they could decide the pace.
All right, well, UCAM looking pretty fantastic in their first game of EU Masters, 1-0 now on the standings. We're going to jump into a quick break, and then we'll jump into game number 5 of the day right after this.
Lights, camera, action. I'll never stop believing. My glasses have
welcome back everybody to EU Masters. That was game number 4 of the day, and it has to be said it was fairly one-sided. We had a fantastic performance coming out from our team, from UCAM, and I think especially Rafitta having a really strong performance on this Kai'Sa. We talked about it earlier game, how this was the way that UCAM usually plays, trying to set up Rafitta, and boy did they set him up.
Yeah, and there was a period of time where I was like, is this pace fast enough? Are Illuminar going to be able to scale up, get to the later stages? But it kind of just felt like the execution of fights was just far better coming out from UCAM. Moments like this one where Illuminar seemed a little bit disjointed. Everyone's backing away. Papatabachi is like, I'm getting my shrine. I don't really care. And he ends up paying for it with his life. And I think really we had high expectations for Illuminar when it comes to teamfight. That's normally where they excel, but they just win on the level of UCAM.
And like moments like this with Melonik, right, is where it didn't quite feel like the team was all on the same page. Maybe it's just day one jitters, right? Maybe it's a little bit of rust coming on through, but Melonik stepping on forward, the gravity field on the other side stops the rest of the team coming in. And then obviously this is the moment where it's like, okay, you can get the sword for themselves. Dreedy can't really get the ultimate that he's looking for. The fight goes the way of Illuminar. And here's where you're like, okay, actually maybe Illuminar have got this. Maybe they can start to snowball this one, but it never happened because Dreedy makes this moment just sing.
That was it. That was the game-winning play there from Dreedy, slamming Odie into the wall. And Odie had a great game up until that point. Felt like he was on fire on the Jinx, and that they were going to be able to carry. Wasn't able to find it on the back of that fight. That was enough. You lose that fight, you lose the Elder, you lose Baron, you lose the game. It's that simple.
It really was, and you know, Melonik doing a lot of damage across the course of the game. The cannon barrage is certainly working out, but actually a surprising amount of damage coming out from the Viktor as well. I didn't necessarily expect Baca to be the guy topping the damage chart. I was thinking it was probably going to be Rafitta, but I think Baca doing a lot of invisible damage. That's the thing with Viktor. It's kind of one of those Karthus-style champions where so long as you slammed your combo out and you pressed R at some point, you're still going to do real good damage because that Chaos Storm doesn't stop when he dies.
Yeah, and we're talking a little bit about a jungle gap here in the Skarner. Probably not the most impactful. There are moments, but as soon as everyone got the QSS, you're putting out 2k damage. You're 2-3 levels down on the enemy jungler. It's just felt it very quickly slipped into complete sort of obsolescence in that game.
Yeah, bit of a rough one. Let's look at the schedule, though, as we getting towards the end of day 1 already. We're moving into our 5th game, which is going to be Ago Rogue up against Sander Supup, if I'm saying that correctly. I apologize if I pronounce anything wrong across the course of today. I'm from the north of England. I've tried to message some people to get some names right, but I'll be doing my best across the course of the day. If I'm saying something wrong, please do drop me a message on Twitter or whatever and correct me. I'd love to get it all right for tomorrow.
I'm also from the north of England, and I also want to use that excuse just to cover me, so we'll just maintain that one. Too many soft vowels and everything.
Check that box, yeah. All right, well, we're going to jump into a very northern break. When we're back, we're jumping into game number 5 of the day.